I would have loved to.
Well, I'll say this: if you came to this mixed tag match, and the selling point of it for you is, sorry, dogs were barking. You need to cut that out. Hey, be quiet. Be quiet.
I'm leaving all that in.
Hey, stop. There's no one there.
Welcome to the Lariat Lounge. This is the home of smart takes, hard hits, and real talk. I'm your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens. Skeener, we are just coming up off the back of history, sir. At least that's what they tell me in the interweb. WrestlePalooza is in the books, and thoughts on WrestlePalooza appear to be very, very mixed from what I have been able to gather. I don't know if you've gathered the same thing. I know you're not as plugged in as I am in certain aspects of the internet as I am not plugged in certain aspects that you are. But from some of the places that I've been, some of the things that I've heard about the match card, about the event itself, about some people not actually being able to view WrestlePalooza, it has been very, very mixed. So yeah, what do you, first of all, let's start the show the way we're supposed to start the show. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Came back from a little, about a 10-day or so vacation and just got back, this past weekend to Milwaukee. Kind of nice to be home, was nice to get away, just kind of getting back into the groove of stuff. So all good here. How about you, brother?
Good. Listen, I can't complain. Listen, I did not have to attempt to do a WrestlePalooza live stream from a Boy Scout hotel. So I am,
we only lost power for a brief second there.
Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. That whole setup would have sounded very creepy. Like it's getting close to that spooky time of the year, and my mind would have been racing on all of the things that may be in the hills. So you're better than I am, man. Like, for those of you who don't know, so Skeener and I hopped on this weekend to do the live stream of WrestlePalooza on the Lariat Live, and our live streaming expert, whose name rhymes with my own, did not, for some reason, realize that there is a two-step process when using OBS Studio to live stream, even though I've done this a few times before. But I don't do it enough to recognize certain things when they're going wrong. And normally I also have Skeener on the back end listening to or checking our audio on, a separate live stream. But our setup was very odd and Skeener, as stated, was in the middle of West Virginia somewhere, for a wedding.
In the middle of nowhere in southern West Virginia.
Okay.
So yeah, for a little wedding.
Yeah.
At the Summit Bechtel Boy Scout Reserve.
And I guess you did not, your setup, you weren't able to, what was it? You weren't able to view both things at the same time?
Yeah, I didn't have enough screens to get everything work the way we usually do.
So between Skeener not seeing that and my general ineptitude with OBS Studio, we get through 4 out of the 5 matches before I realize that I never started the live stream. And so, for those of you who tuned into the last match on WrestlePalooza, you got to hear Skeener and I discussing the match, but Skeener was missing for 20 minutes because you muted your mic?
Yeah, I didn't come back off mute after I came back. So yeah, not our finest hour this weekend, but
listen, you tune in primarily to hear me and Skeens every week on the Lariat Lounge, because this is where the real action is. Okay, that ancillary action that's over there, that's extra work. And apparently Skeener and I put in minimal effort for extra work. So show up to work here at the Lariat Lounge where you're going to get us at our best. And there's only one way to do that, and that's tuning in every week. So Skeener, please let the people know where they can catch us when we're at our best. And maybe maybe at times during PLEs when we're not at.
We're coming at you once a week, at least every week, on all your favorite podcast platforms. we know how to press record and get this one uploaded, so you'll never tune in to blank audio here. But we're coming at you on all your favorite podcast platforms: YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast. We're also got an open line of communication over on Gmail at the Lariat Lounge. So please get involved, send us your thoughts, reach out to us. We love hearing from all of you all.
Absolutely. And I would love to hear what you guys thought about WrestlePalooza, honestly, because from what I've been hearing, it's been a little mixed. But we're going to get right into it so you can hear what Skeena and I both thought about it. So enough with the fluff. Let's get to the stuff. So Skeena, WrestlePalooza is in the books. And I have to tell you, I think the best part of WrestlePalooza for me was watching it with you, man. That was the best part of WrestlePalooza, was watching it with you. And even if we did not get the live stream clearly off the tarmac for very long, flying high with you watching the PLEs is always the best part. So my only regret is that some of the listeners who would have tuned in did not get to watch it with us. But my thoughts on WrestlePalooza, they are, honestly, brother, I think it was between good and mid. Like, if I had to break this scoring system down into like a 5-tier system, right, which is like bad, meh, mid, good, and great, I think it would be between good and mid. What about you?
To go back to what you said at the beginning, yeah, a lot of mixed feelings online, a lot of vitriol. I honestly was pretty surprised when I got online kind of after the as we talked about on the live stream. I had it right after the PLE ended. I hopped in the car and did about a 12 hour drive from West Virginia back to Milwaukee through the night. And so when I stopped, I'd when I was in the gas stations and stuff, look on my phone, was seeing all these very vitriolic reactions to this PLE, and I was like, man, did we watch the same thing? And I don't know if it's like we watched it together and that we had more fun or like what, but I was like, man, I didn't think that was that bad. Like, I had fun. I mean, certainly it's not like, it's not one for the record books. Like, wasn't the most memorable thing ever. There's some great moments, but like, I didn't think it was bad.
Yeah.
Seems like people kept pointing to, I guess Triple H made up, a common sales puffery statement was like, oh, tune in, there's going to be surprises and great action, and people like talk themselves into, oh man, we're going to get 4 returns and all these surprises, and it didn't happen, and then they worked themselves into a shoot, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was fine. I had fun. I enjoyed it. It was exactly what I expected from what we've been talking about for a few weeks, an event that seemed pretty thrown together for the most part. So I thought it was fine. I had a good time. But I certainly get where people are coming from, that if you expected a certain level of event, you didn't get that. But I guess I didn't expect that, so I wasn't disappointed.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's at least how I take it.
I mean, to be fair, how could you? And that's kind of where I'm at too, right? Which is I recognize why people could possibly feel the way they feel about this show, right? And I think, so this is just my opinion. I do pay attention to what the general conversation is around these things, but I oftentimes try very hard to shape and formulate my own opinion and be cognizant of where bias may be creeping in, either based on my personal feelings towards professional wrestling or a program, or if my opinions have somehow been impacted by outside source. And it doesn't mean that we prevent that from happening. I just try to, be mindful of it as much as possible. But this is just my opinion. There have been a lot of conversations surrounding WWE and some of them we have spoken on this podcast about, with regards to the double booking of WrestleMania in Vegas twice in a row. And then, prior to this podcast forming, we had gotten notice as wrestling fans that the Royal Rumble in 26 was going to Saudi. Then we got the hostage negotiation video of the announcement that WrestleMania was going to Saudi. And I think when you follow that with WrestlePalooza, which like we stated, right, there are a lot of beats that led into WrestlePalooza that did not lay the groundwork for people to truly be invested in a good number of the matches. And I think we already understood that. We understood that that was the case coming. And I think that a lot of people, I would assume that if you're watching the same product that we are, that you are also aware of the fact that there was not a lot of build to a great number of the matches that were. I think it's not any of those one things that are triggered. I think it might be a culmination scheme of all of these things. It's like a mounting frustration that I think kind of culminated with WrestlePalooza and people just kind of being like, yes, if I'm looking at this just from the standpoint of wrestling matches, yeah, the entertainers entertained, the performers performed, right? The show went off without a hitch. No one got hurt. And the matches some of them were pretty good. Some of them were serviceable. But all around, if we're looking at it just from a match standpoint, it's fine. But I also think that there are some people who are genuinely disenchanted right now with the direction that WWE is going and the seeming inevitability, right? That it really doesn't matter how we feel about it, that the company is going to make the decisions that the company wants to make. And it doesn't really matter how we as fans react to or how we feel about it. And I think it just lends to people having some sense of, what's the word? A sense of disappointment with WWE current. And if I'm basing it off of how I personally feel about it, I think that's how I kind of feel, because I too feel like WrestlePalooza was a fine event when it comes to the match. But I'm a little just disenchanted in a way with some of this, not with the week-to-week product, but just it's hard for me to put down that press conference from the other week. And it's not that I go to bed thinking about it and I wake up with it on my mind, right? But at the same time, it's difficult then to tune into WrestlePalooza and watch this and see the matches like, scroll down, because I'm looking at the card right now. It's hard for me to look at all of these matches in their totality and think that this was supposed to be the big WrestleMania-sized event that it was touted as being. But I don't know.
I think that's where the disconnect is. Like, nothing I consumed or saw led me to think this is gonna be anything more than a throwaway September show that just happens to be the first one on ESPN.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought it was going to be closer to a Saturday night's main event than it was a big PLE.
Yeah.
And it exceeded that, I thought. So it's just, I think expectations got mismatched to what got delivered. And I'm not saying anyone's wrong for that, but I think that's where the differing opinions came from, where I think we came away seeing that and we're like, we had a fun, 3 hours or so watching that show together. But It's also, you take what you get from it. I mean, obviously, I think we had, the camaraderie and companionship always helps when watching wrestling.
Of course.
And you'll never, it's always more fun when it's a social thing. And that helped too, but I'm just not as down on it as other people are.
I get that. Well, and listen, that is the beauty of wrestling, is that, it can be very subjective at times, right? WrestlePalooza, I thought, wasn't too bad. I'm interested to see what comes from some of these matches, and some of them in particular. And I don't know if I thought it's because I thought the matches were great, but there are things that are in play right now that have me wondering what WWE has in store. But we might as well just start with the card, right? And start with the first match on the card, which was Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. Brock Lesnar, let me state the obvious. One, it's little things that as a wrestling fan will always get a positive response. We've talked about it in brief before, and we've flirted with the idea of doing a special episode about it, which I have not forgotten about. But entrances matter. And Brock's entrance, it's little things like lighting the floor in that white with his emblem in black. And you know what I'm saying? And have the background black when he came out and have a little bit of smoke effect there. It was a great visual to contrast, you know, after his pyro goes off and then his regular entrance comes in. It's little things like that that can just give a bit of gravity to something that you've seen over and over again and make you really like it more. So I'm going to start there and say I thought the entrance and how they set that up was really dope. I also liked Cena's entrance with the minions. That was cool too. I didn't realize that minions were real, but they found a whole bunch of them to come out on stage with him. So that was cool. And Brock looked great. He looked like he's probably been in the best shape he's been in a few years. So, you know, it's always nice to see, you know, people getting prepared to go to work. And I thought the match itself was what we expect from a Brock Lesnar match. What do you think before we get to even like the finish of this and kind of some of the things that happened on Raw? What were your thoughts on Brock and Cena?
I thought maybe grade a little incomplete now, because I think a lot of what that did hinges on what happens with Brock Lesnar in the future. That said, for what it was, I mean, I enjoyed it. We know what we're getting from Brock Lesnar matches. I don't think it's wise at this point to expect John Cena to go in there with Brock Lesnar and do anything, you know, we haven't seen before in terms of wrestling matches. And that's just who both of those guys are. But the more I think about it, the more what we saw makes a lot of sense if Brock Lesnar is factored into future plans. Because it has been a while since we've seen Brock Lesnar. It had over 2 years. SummerSlam 23 was his last match. And the last thing we saw him do was lose a match to Cody. And I think this was, again, pending future involvement, a good way to reestablish and kind of remind everyone what the Brock Lesnar character is supposed to be portrayed as. And that if he's, you know, I don't need him on every show, but I need him to show up again at some point within the next, 6 to 8 weeks for this to matter. Yeah. But just kind of like, I'm fine if Brock is just always that looming threat to anyone and everyone that gets a little too big for their britches. And just the match, if I look at it as like this was a reminder that there is this the last real ass kicker out there that can come and do this to anyone at any time, it served a purpose, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of Brock. Now, if we look at it from John Cena's perspective, yeah, I get why people could be like, well, this is a waste of one of John Cena's dates. Fair. And we'll be able to, and I've always said this, I think we'll have a better picture of once this year is done, look back and see what this John Cena retirement tour was overall. But neither of us has shied away from expressing slight disappointment in the fact that they can't figure out what this is.
Yeah.
And what they want to do. And that's seemingly continued because we got a random Tuesday non-televised announcement that we're getting Cena versus AJ Styles in Perth. And look, that's fine. Again, it's just, it's weird. And I think we're all still reeling from the fact that we still have that whiplash from coming off this John Cena heel turn where they were seemingly trying to tell some sort of story back to, let's just get him out there and do matches against his, greatest rivals and do it one more time.
Yeah.
And we've seemingly shifted into that. And I think we're just dealing with the whiplash and the what could have been still there. But back to what we got in a vacuum, I enjoyed it. And I think there was, for a lot of people, the shock factor. There always is, like, of, Brock just kind of decimated him. And that's still, I think for a lot of people, that still has some gravitas and oomph. It certainly did for me. I can see where people are tired of that, but like it's a proven formula that works. Does it work for everyone? No. The people that, I can see where it has gotten tiresome to people who live and breathe wrestling, but that's going to happen with any storytelling trope. There's always so many stories you can tell in wrestling. You can change players, you can do it in different ways, but you've got to build up, you've got to rebuild this giant monster for someone else to slay. And I get frustration that it was John Cena that had to, take one of his dates to do that. That's where I'm rambling a little bit and I'll turn it back to you soon, but I like the business that was done, the story that was told. I get it. I also get the frustration, and I think it's valid that it was one of John Cena's last dates that was used to do this, essentially.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. It's actually two questions. And I want your opinion because I've been thinking about it for the last maybe hour or so after, the idea kind of came across my radar. It's not my own.
Oh, here we go.
Do you think, so two different questions. Do you think that Cena and Lesnar run it back for one of Cena's last matches?
I don't think they do in a one-on-one match. I really don't.
Okay. So you don't
But I've been right about so little in this Cena retirement tour that it wouldn't surprise me to be wrong again.
Okay. See, I'm curious about that. Now that thought was my own. The second question I'm gonna ask you was not my idea, but I was wondering about that. Like, do you run it back? That would be one. I would totally understand why there would be a contingent of people that would say, Everson, you've lost your mind. Like, you want to waste another one of his dates on another Lesnar match, particularly when you felt the way you felt about Cena and the first Lesnar. My answer would be yes, run it back. And the reason I would say that is it gives a reason for this match to have happened in the first place. Would I want to see another Cena-Lesnar match? Only if you're telling me a story, right? If you're telling me a story where Brock comes back out of nowhere, he does a couple F5s at a couple different events, he argues with R-Truth about where's Cena, even though he knows Cena's not there, while splitting his pants, and then he cuts a promo right for WrestlePalooza that is like, John Cena, he didn't invite me on his dance card. I'm going to ruin him. I'm going to ruin his retirement. And then he comes out here and he destroys John. And then you have maybe John doing some self-doubt stuff, but then going through the rallying process and then facing Lesnar again in maybe one of his last matches and getting the W back, right? That is almost like epitome John Cena. And that would kind of work for me. So in that sense, I would like to see the likelihood of that. I don't know. I mean, it depends on how long Brock is sticking around. And what WWE's plans are for Brock. The second question that I have for you is not an idea that's my own. Do you think that Lesnar and Heyman's communications that they've had prior to and through WrestlePalooza could have an effect on Heyman's loyalty or Heyman's ability to impact the Vision or Seth Rollins, particularly going into Crown Jewel Perth?
Going into Crown Jewel, I don't think so.
Okay.
In the future, yes. I feel like we'll get through Crown Jewel before it becomes an issue. I do think it's an issue in the future, though. I don't think that was done as a throwaway.
Yeah.
And for nothing. I don't think we'll forget about that. Because we have, at least as far as I can remember for my money, every time Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar have gotten involved with each other, it's been really, really good stuff. And if Brock's back in the kind of the role and space he's in now, and Seth is, it just gives a completely new dynamic to that conflict, and I think they'd be crazy not to explore it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this Heyman Brock stuff plays into that in the future. I just think Crown Jewel's a little soon, especially with them announcing the Cody stuff. So I think they'll stay away from the Brock stuff through there and then heat it back up towards the end of the year, at least. Yeah. But could I also see Brock showing up at Crown Jewel? Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, that's so the idea that I heard was this idea that Brock shows up at Crown Jewel Perth and somehow ends up costing Seth the match. And Cody gets one over on Seth again. And that this could potentially lead to some dissension between Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, which then brings Brock into the picture. And I'm spinning off of the idea now to think I'm thinking, right? Which is brings Brock into the picture, which either then you could set up something between Brock and Seth or even Brock and Breaker.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's, yeah, I got talking and forgot to mention that, but like, yeah, you obviously that's something people are going to want to see and go crazy.
I think
you want to hear a crowd that's going to forget all about their malaise about Brock Lesnar or alleged malaise is you tease that confrontation and a crowd will lose their minds, and rightfully so.
I think that's the money, in my opinion. That's where the money. Like you could keep Cody in the mix here, because I could see something you doing something where, well, it depends. Like I could see you doing something that would keep Cody and Seth in some sort of conflict with one another, but I also don't see it because Punk is still here, and Punk and Cody, not Punk and Cody, but Punk and Seth are not done. Like they're not done with each other. And nor is AJ Lee and Becky. So they're not finished with each other. And so it would be interesting if we do get some sort of conflict between Breaker and Brock. And maybe that comes by way of Brock costing Seth the match at Crown Jewel Perth. And we already know, based on the way he's been portrayed, that Breaker is a hothead. And it's very difficult to keep him on the leash. And listen, Brock's going F5 crazy on Breaker, or Breaker hitting that 23-mile-an-hour spear on Brock, I think is the stuff that people would really tune in for. It's Beast versus Breaker. And it just, that would be a great match. That would be a great match to watch. And it honestly, I think it would force Brock to play a different role. Because even if we think back to Brock's match against Roman, like Prime Tribal Chief Roman wrestles a particular style of match. And even though Roman is a big, strong guy, Roman doesn't wrestle a big, strong guy style. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't wrestle a big, strong guy style. And so Brock got to play a particular role, the role he typically plays. Breaker doesn't particularly play the big, strong guy style, but he definitely plays the role of like to borrow quotes from Bianca Belair, right? The biggest, the strongest, the fastest, the roughest, the toughest. That's the role he plays, right? So it's like he gets in the ring and yeah, he wrestles match, sells really good. But when it comes down to it, like you're not going to really overpower Breaker. You're not really going to outrun Breaker. You're not really going to out-tough Breaker, right? Where you go, he's going to go there faster. He's going to jump there higher. He's going to spear you with more speed, right? He's going to toss you with more strength. And obviously Breaker is not going to be able to toss Lesnar around like that. So it'll force him into something new, but it also forces Brock to not just contend with another guy who's a physical specimen, but one who is presented as you don't want to let this guy get too far off his leash. Because when he does, right, he's going to be almost unstoppable. And it's just a really great dynamic. It puts Paul back in between two people who he as either worked with or currently works with, and Paul would be the glue that would hold something like that together, because he does a really masterful job of curating an idea of foreboding dread, right? That he could talk to Brock about Brock not taking Breaker lightly. You know what I mean? And Brock could definitely be taking the role of taking this kid a little too light. And then, Paul can also be playing the role of, hey, if you're going to go into this match with Brock, Breaker, you need to kind of make sure you're ready because you've never fought anybody like Brock Lesnar. That to me, even as interesting as another match with Lesnar and Rollins would be, to me, that's the money right there. That is the money.
Oh, I'm with you 100% for it. Everything you said. Like it's a chance for Brock to be in there with someone, and I'm not gonna say equal to him in terms of being a once in a lifetime athlete, because I think as great as Braun Breaker is, and I don't think this is a disrespect to him at all, there's only one Brock Lesnar, but you're right, it's a different matchup because it is someone that has that same type of, explosion he did. He's facing up against essentially what young debuting Brock Lesnar did to people.
Yes.
And to put Paul Heyman in the middle of that, how apropos that would be and poetic, whatever term you want to use. Like, yeah, I mean, I think as wrestling fans, who wouldn't want that? That's got to be at the top of the list to do if you get a chance to do it, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Brock's intensity versus Breaker's intensity. It's two different forms of the same type of energy. And that right there would be a match that would be worthy of a main event spot. You just wonder how you would slot Breaker into a match like that and not have it be the main event, because I don't think WWE would position Breaker in a main event match over Seth. You know what I'm saying? Unless Seth wasn't on the card, It's
a WrestleMania opener as far as I can tell.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. But so I mean, Lesnar went over here, and there are some breadcrumbs that are being dropped right now that insinuate that Lesnar may be here for a little bit. And we'll have to wait and see what they do, because I have no idea what the intention is or what it is that they plan on doing with. But, we laid out a few things just now about what they could possibly do with Lesnar. We'll just have to see if they actually do it, because it's really contingent on a lot of other moving parts, particularly with Heyman being part of the vision, right? They've got to, I can't see a world where Brock is not at the very least orbiting what is happening with the vision. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, where else does he go right now?
Right.
I mean, especially with what they've set up, but we'll see. I don't think we get more Brock for a bit. And I think that's okay. Because I think he's always been best as this looming threat when he's not there. Not in the way we did the Cena stuff, which we've talked about and I'm not going to go into, but maybe just mention him. Like, Seth comes back, hey, Paul, what was that stuff with Brock?
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. Just keep him, he can be out of sight, but just keep him on the mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with that. And that's the best way that's honestly the best way for them to move with that. Just make the best of this situation. It's crazy though when you think about the fact that there is more excitement for what comes out of Lesnar and Cena that has nothing to do with Cena than excitement for Lesnar versus Cena going into them. Like, there's so much more conversation to be had now after the match with what's to come and what could be coming. And it's not like we've had a lot of screen time with Brock prior to WrestlePalooza, nor have we had any screen time with Brock after WrestlePalooza, right? But you had these beats where he said this thing to Heyman. And, you know what I'm saying? Heyman has made these different allusions to some other things, right? And it's just those little beats of storytelling. That is why it boggles my mind that they did not do a better job with the storytelling aspect of Lesnar v. Cena. You know what I mean? Like, all it takes is a little bit. All it takes is a little bit. All you have to do is drop a few little breadcrumbs, and you'll get people like myself looking at things in a slightly different light, from a slightly different perspective. So it just lends to me the idea that maybe, like we've said before, it seemed like they're just winging it until they're not. You know what I'm saying? And some of this stuff with WrestlePalooza seemed like it just kind of came out of nowhere. And maybe they were doing it to sell the card. And maybe now that they've got some pieces in place, they can start, making some moves. We'll never know unless they, Unreal Season 2 speaks to some of this stuff. But
speaking of that, not to derail anything right now, but did you see they're going to cover the R-Truth stuff? In Unreal Season 2?
No, I didn't. Where'd you hear that?
Saw it somewhere online. I'll have to dig it up and send it to you.
I mean, it's worth digging up. That story was
that's going to be
pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see from behind the scenes for sure.
Well, and in that respect, Season 2 of Unreal is going to be good because listen, you've got to cover the Cena farewell tour in Season 2. Particularly if you can't not cover the Cena farewell tour, but cover the R-Truth story, because the R-Truth story is intimately tied to the Cena farewell tour. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all looking forward to next season.
I really
of Unreal for sure.
I really enjoyed the first season. So next up is Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker defeating the Usos. Now, Skeeter, did you see when Jay apparently injured himself?
No, we were trying to figure it out. I've seen it back now only because I saw Xavier Woods' Instagram post making fun of it. But so I guess that chair rebounded and smacked him in the head when he smacked Braun across the back.
Okay.
The chair rebounded and hit him in the head.
Okay.
Or I can't even tell. And maybe it wasn't a rebound. Maybe as he swung it over his head, like clipped himself with those crossbars between the legs. Something happened, but he hit himself with the chair one way or another.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see anything. I didn't look at anything to kind of determine how he had hurt himself. I just saw somewhere that they were like, Jay injured himself, and I was like, well, that I guess that could make sense. I don't know how. And I remembered him busting himself open, but I didn't know.
He did it himself. And my source is Xavier Woods' Instagram post making fun of it.
But this was a good match, though. This was a good match. And I think what is most intriguing to me, honestly, is I don't want to overlook this match, even though the Usos versus the Brawns is kind of like a Monday Night Raw match. The inclusion of LA Knight was nice because it does lead into one of the better parts of Monday Night Raw currently, which is this ongoing story with Jimmy and Jay and LA Knight. And, him being in this match and just kind of being who he is and allowing certain things to happen while not allowing other things to happen because he likes who he likes and he doesn't who he doesn't. I thought that was a really great use of the special guest referee. But man, I am really enjoying this toying with the idea that Jey Uso is turning dark. I'm really enjoying this kind of teasing of Jay and Jimmy not being on the same page. And I don't know where LA Knight fits into this right now because he really kind of seems like the catalyst here for a future match between the two brothers. But I mean, he's doing a great job. And, he's wrestling almost every week with someone who's involved in this story. And I think, honestly, dude, Jay is just doing a really great job of peeling his own onion back and showing some layers and giving him an edge that he really needs. I think the fans love him. He's got a great entrance. And I think that having a bit of an angle to him, a sharp, 90-degree angle to him, would really, really help his character be able to kind of turn it on when it needs to be turned on, turning it off, and, glad handing the fans and all that stuff is always great. But having that sharper edge will kind of put him back into positions of prominence within the main event scene and allow him to compete against other people, because for some reason, I think when you're a heel, there are more doors that are open to you than when you're a face. Because I think a face has to not necessarily be the one who is antagonistic, but is receiving of the, antagonistic nature of someone else. Whereas if you have an edge to you and you get to play the heel, you get to go on the offensive, whether it's in a match or whether it is the instigation that goes into a match. So, and we haven't got to really see Jay in that position outside of being the right hand man. So, well, how are you feeling about this tweener Gray Jay?
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little the past couple weeks, but I'm with you. I really enjoy it. We had been calling for a while for Jay to move beyond just the eating and just the pure babyface Jay, and we're getting this with this whole Shades of Roman angle, and I loved what they did on Raw with Jimmy had Cody go talk to him, and Jay just that interaction. It seemed very, very well done, very lifelike for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
like it seemed like it could have been a real interaction,
right?
Like, and not just a staged wrestling promo that Cody, his buddy, goes to him and goes, "You're okay, right, man? Like, it's okay if you're not. Just tell me." And Jay, "No, I'm good. Jay, he's always, or Jimmy, he's always tripping," I think he said. But yeah. I think as we explore this, I don't know where the end destination is, but I like where we're going, and I'm here for the ride for this one for sure. It gives us a different side of Jay. I'm sure LA Knight's going to keep being involved. We got the match on Monday, and yeah, I think this is a good thing to do. I'm glad they brought Jimmy over to be involved in this, and it builds that needed depth and, like you said, the angles with Jay that we kind of needed to develop.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking, Jimmy and Jay, Cody, LA Knights, 4 people. Survivor Series is looming. Now, I'm thinking, as I always am, right, about like angles and how could these different angles play themselves out, right? And in my mind, a couple of them jumped out to me just now. Obviously, Jimmy and Jay. I think that's an obvious place to go. But and you also got LA Knight and Jay. Like, there at some point there's going to be a blow off to that between the two of them, right? Just a straight up one-on-one match. That's probably the thing that is most clear. But could we get a legitimate feud between Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes? Like, I think that would be a really great idea, particularly with Jay showing more of these like Roman shades. You could go the route of Jimmy versus Jay, and I think maybe you could do that to get to an eventual Cody versus Jay, right? Where maybe you've got Jay going against Jimmy in a match, and I don't know, man, Jay maybe takes it too far. Maybe Jay takes it too far with his own brother, and Cody steps in, and kind of like bros, because they're family, and he's kind of like, "What are you doing?" And Jay is not trying to hear it, and I think the story has a lot of ability to write itself, which is why, it popped out as an obvious thing to me. But they didn't have a whole lot of interaction with each other from a match standpoint, aside from wrestling each other to determine who would be, it was during the King of the Ring, right?
Yeah, I believe. I'm not going to say.
I think they wrestled each other
100% remember.
I think they wrestled each other in one of the quarterfinal matches.
Okay.
Because who ended up winning King of the Ring? Was that Gunther?
Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm tripping. Yeah.
Yeah, Cody. That's how he got his match at SummerSlam.
Okay, so yeah, I think it came down to Jay and Cody. I think it came down to the two of them, and I think that's the only time that they really wrestled against one another. So to get a decent program between the two of them, I think that would be really, really interesting. You know what I mean? Like that would be, you could get Cody to dig into that little space that he does really well that some people don't like, which is the kind of emotional Cody. Because you could really let Cody play the role of not really wanting to do any of this, but it's getting to the point where, you know what I mean? Where it's like he has to fight Jay, and Jay is kind of in that space of like, I don't know, he's off the rails. He's off the rails. Jay is seeing red everywhere. You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't really want to have to fight your good friend like this, but he's leaving me no choice. You know what I mean? Like he's leaving me no choice, and it's not leaving me no choice like because he's pissing me off and it's like somebody has to stop Jay before he self-destructs. And that would be a great way to paint that story. You know what I'm saying? Like, not even stop Jay because he's becoming such a bad guy, but paint it as in like, yo, he's headed for self-destruction. Like Jay is going to destroy himself. And
well, yeah, and then they can always lean back on. We've seen where this goes before.
Yeah,
with the tribal chief. Eventually, it all blows up.
Yes, that's a great point. They could always lean back on that, and it gives it some depth to this idea of like Jimmy and Cody kind of like coming together, and it's like, yo, we have to stop Jay because he is headed for self-destruction, and you know Jay's not seeing any, and somebody's got to make him see real.
And everything they're doing is just really good. I mean, Jay worked. He wrestled that match a little differently than he has before. Yes, on Monday, he was almost I don't want to say the full heel, but it was definitely a little different, a little more aggressive. And then you have the finish and the aftermath where he refuses to come and help, fend off Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, and Jimmy's begging him to, and Jay just sits there at the top of the ramp. I think we keep everyone, like we've said, we keep all these pieces orbiting each other, but you can tell different stories off of it. It's no longer the Usos and LA Knight against the Vision. Now it's their inner conflict, still driven kind of by the Vision.
Yeah.
But we can spin different stories off of it. And I think this is one of the things that's making Raw the really good half of the weekly shows right now.
I agree. It's difficult looking at SmackDown sometimes because there are some signs of life on SmackDown, but oftentimes, man, it's like, what is happening on that show that is intriguing in any way? And you have to think.
There's been a big Cody-sized hole for a while.
There's been a big Cody-sized hole, and I mean, now he's back now, and he's the champ, so he should be the gravity well for storytelling on that show, but it doesn't have to be. When you look at Raw, right? Yeah, we have the World Heavyweight Champion on the show, but the show also has legs that can stand outside of the World Champ being on weekly programming, right? SmackDown seems to struggle if Cody is not on the show, right? Like he is the center of that universe. And if he's not there, everything else just shows how uninteresting it can be. And I don't mean any disrespect to the people who perform on SmackDown. I think this is far more indicative of a lack of investment in proper storytelling to kind of get people behind certain, characters, where they do a much better job of that on Monday Night Raw, right? And listen, no better example of that, in my opinion, than the Judgment Day and Rusev, because there are a lot of people who got very tired of Rusev v. Sheamus 76, right? Like 77 matches of Rusev and Sheamus. But then you take Rusev and
I think it was only 3, but it felt like 70 to me. That's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I'm sure my numbering system is biased based on how many of those matches we actually got and how it felt. But then you take Rusev and you inject him into the Intercontinental title picture. And all of a sudden, because he's having matches against JD McDonough, right, with the Dominic Mysterio thing floating around and the Judgment Day and the gravity that they carry, Rusev now matters a little bit. At least he feels like it. That feud, that story does not feel like it's throwaway. And I think that is a testament in full to investing in telling good stories and how that can pay off in a multitude of different ways. And SmackDown just seems to be lacking in that department. They just seem to be lacking in quality storytelling that really makes for character inclusion in certain stories really matter.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like the SmackDown stuff isn't hitting the way the Raw is, or I mean, everything seems kind of cyclical. Always, it never seems like, and maybe it's just because we constantly feel the need to compare them, and that's just the way it'll be. But it never seems like they're both on a high at the same time, which I get. It's hard to write 5 hours of live TV for 100 wrestlers every week. Like, it's tough, but it seems like, yeah, Raw is obviously working out. Everything's hitting a little more. But with this Rusev stuff, I like that they're doing something with him. That was my main complaint, is why did he come back to whatever amount of fanfare you want to say he came back to and just go into this kind of seemingly stakeless feud with Sheamus, and they're just fighting to fight. Right. And I get they were good matches, but it didn't seem like it did anything for either character. Maybe coming out, it reestablished Rusev, but we could have gone straight into this and it would be good. And I think this is doing a better job establishing what this new Rusev character is going to be. And it's off to a good start. For my taste, that match ran a little long. Why is it taking Rusev, no offense to JD McDonough, but the way he's positioned in that character is, why is Rusev in a, 2 commercial break match with JD McDonough? But they got there in the end where Dom is afraid of Rusev. Like, this is a threat to him, and he refuses to get in there and help JD because he's scared for himself. So we've got this Rusev angle, but it comes back and plays again into this turmoil within the Judgment Day. And now is Dom, now that he is, I don't want to say the leader, but like the guy in the Judgment Day with the belts, is he looking too much out for himself and not for the group? And I think that'll be a fun twist on how that plays into this Rusev-Dom Intercontinental title feud. Well, I think that's a good thing to put the focus on as well, because it doesn't have to be all about Rusev versus Dom.
Oh, yeah. Well, for sure. And I mean, listen, he's already kind of painting that picture with his association with El Grande Americano, or the Americanos. And
yes, who got a full video segment, which I loved.
They did. Yes, I saw that, and I just remember thinking to myself, man, what are we doing? I mean, listen, it's goofy, and so I'm down for goofy, but I'm also kind of like, I wonder who the other Americanos are.
Oh, do you not know? Do you want me to tell you?
Sure, yeah. It's not a mystery I really care about.
It's Kaiser. Kaiser was obviously the first. We knew that.
Sure.
Pete Dunne was the second one, and the third one was Tyler Bate.
Oh, okay. Well, that works. Give them something to do, because they're not doing anything else.
Hey, right.
So it gives. Hey, look, it's a good way to keep your job. Listen, I'm not hating on that at all. But no, that's a great. He's already kind of leaning into this relationship with the Americanos, and it's obviously causes some dissension in the Judgment. So there, you have that playing there, and I don't know. Listen, if it was me, I would have Rusev challenge Dominic for that IC championship and have Rusev take that belt off. I think that Dom is great, and as long as he's got some gold around his waist, I think he works for him. I think Judgment Day, whatever story that Judgment Day is telling, I think at some point really soon, this is one of the only criticisms that you'll hear from me of the Judgment. I feel like the Judgment Day right now are kind of in a holding pattern, and it's fine, but I would love for this thing with the Judgment Day to start moving along a little bit. And I think the way you do that is to start to kind of sow some more seeds of dissension between them. And you're doing so right now with Dominic and the Americanos, but he needs to lose something. He needs to lose something for relying on them instead of his, adopted family in the Judgment Day. And, maybe that'll lead to Dom having some sort of awakening, or it could lead to a feud between him and Finn, which we have, teased a bit, but we have not gotten. So,
well, and we've still got some juice when Liv comes back too.
Well, and there's another thing, right? Where's Liv Morgan at? I mean, besides, being, a party to a hostage video. That blew my mind. I was like, yo, we have not got a timeline at all on when Liv is coming back, but yet, here's Turkey a la Chic and Liv Morgan's here. That's crazy. At the time, we hadn't seen Stephanie in a little while either. Speaking of Stephanie, congratulations, Stephanie McMahon, for being the first inductee in the class of 2026 Hall of Fame. I was wondering why Taker was out there. It was really oddly placed.
He was.
It was so odd.
He didn't. They maybe should have told him to keep it a little tighter, but he was out there rambling a bit. But that was a cool moment. I liked that.
Yeah, you could tell that Stephanie was out there under false premise.
Oh yeah,
that she was out there with Nick Khan, and they clearly told her that they were going to do a segment with Taker, and it was about something else. And you could tell when he started talking and he started saying certain things that Stephanie was a little confused. And then when he started speaking in the pros, that lead to announcing her as the newest inductee in the Hall of Fame, that she was really emotionally moved by it. And I was a bit emotionally moved by it as well. I think of all the McMahons, Stephanie has been the most palatable for over the years. And she's definitely proven to be a stalwart for the company. No other McMahon, I think, has been a stalwart for the company greater than her, besides her father and her grandfather. I think she's just been here, and she stepped away briefly to kind of raise her kids, and then she came back. And she's been in the foreground or she's been in the back, but she's always appeared to be a very strong advocate for the wrestlers. And she seems to be generally beloved by almost everyone.
Yeah, you never hardly, or at least I can't even think of a time I've heard anyone, current or former, say a bad thing about Stephanie.
Yeah.
She seems very, very revered by all her peers and people that have worked for and under her, and yeah, just really cool moment. Really, really cool moment.
Absolutely. And I think she's deserving. And it'll be interesting. It's always interesting to see who the inductee classes are each year. I was not expecting to hear the announcement made at WrestlePalooza. I wasn't expecting to hear that at WrestlePalooza, but it did remind me that we are in the month of September. And so we will indeed start getting some, trickling out of inductees. And I'm sure, do you think, well, I said I'm sure, and then I started thinking about it, and I figured I'd ask the question. Stephanie is the headliner?
No. I still think it's Cena.
Okay, so you think Cena's going in first ballot?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and listen, I don't disagree.
Unless he says no to going in right away.
Well, yeah, he does have the option to say no
but
right away.
I can't imagine they don't go ahead and do it.
Well, listen, I'll say this. If they go ahead and do it and they put him in the 2026 class and Stephanie is also in that class, you could have a very stacked 2026 class, depending on who else goes in. Because I'm trying to think of who else could go in that is no longer wrestling and would be appropriate to go in the WWE Hall of Fame in 26. I don't know. I mean, some of the people I would think of, they're still currently wrestling. They're just not in WWE. Needless to say, congratulations, Stephanie McMahon. That was a great moment. And, I I don't often say things like, I think that this person deserves it. And then the times that I would say it, it's obvious to everyone. But I definitely feel like Steph, and I didn't really consider it until I saw Taker giving. And then when he announced it to her, I thought to myself, of course. Like, she absolutely deserves it. She absolutely. All right. So the next match on the card, Stephanie Vaquet versus Io Sky for the women's world title. And Stephanie Vaquer defeats Io Sky to be the first South American born women's world champion in WWE. So just as a little side note before we get into this match, right? I was on YouTube earlier today, and I happened to be scrolling through WWE's YouTube channel, and I came across a clip of, I believe it was NXT Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, I don't know if that was a show, but I think it was Homecoming. And Stephanie Vaquer tagged with Rhea Ripley to compete against Fatal Influence.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a stereo Devil's Kiss moment.
Yes.
And I legit thought Booker T passed out. There was a bunch of cheeks jiggling everywhere, and Booker T sounded like he was about to fall out of his chair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that happened.
That was a thing. That was definitely a thing. But yeah, Stephanie Vaquer wins, and that was a very good match. I will say this: Stephanie Vaquer is a very good wrestler, and I think that it was time, particularly because you had a vacated belt, that you didn't have to take the title off of someone to give it to her. So it's a very fresh title run to get into that's not really steeped in someone losing the title, which is always, I think it's always a great place to start with a new champion. So I think it was the right time to put it on her. I will continue to say this, and I mean this just based squarely on what I see in the ring, Skeens, how I see this person wrestle, their ability, the ability to sell and to work. I am making a really hot take right in saying that I think that Io Sky is probably the best female wrestler in the world. I think she just does what she does better than anyone. And I think that her ability in the ring is second to none. And I think that her ability to sell for her opponents is grade A, top notch. Just her mannerisms are just impeccable. And I think that she has done a incredible job also of traversing the language barrier. Do you know what I mean? And really working what she does well effectively on the microphone so that her delivery is as spot on as it needs to be to complement how incredibly good she is. I watch her wrestle and I just don't see a flaw. You know what I mean? Like I don't see a flaw in her game. And even when she does things that make me kind of gasp, like she does certain things, I'm just like, oh my, like, please don't kill yourself. She always lands it perfect. And it's incredible. So, you know, and it's a testament to the fact that match after match after match, I'm thinking about women's matches this year that I have looked at and thought to myself, God, these could be like all contenders for like match of the year. If I'm splitting men and women up, right? Like these could easily be contenders for match of the year. And Io is in every single one of them. You know what I'm saying? And you got to start thinking that there's a common denominator. And it's not that the other people are bad by any means. But if Io is consistently in every match that has like match of the year contender written on, you got to think that if she's also in matches with people who are incredible, that like she has got to be the best one they got, which is why they trust her so much, even with the language barrier. And I always bring that up because there is a marketability fact when it comes to who WWE decides to put the championship, right? And the language barrier can be a thing because it limits certain types of appearances that you can do and how well they'll get over. But then I think that you just have talent sometimes that just transcend that. And it's like, you got to keep them in the scene because they're just that damn good. But what were your thoughts on Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky and Stephanie going over?
Pretty much what we said. We covered it well last week. Match was great, and yeah, I mean, it was what it was. We didn't have a lot of, we're not a podcast that's going to sit down and go move for move and talk about all the great moves they did a lot, and they did a lot of great moves. That finish from Stephanie, her version of the spiral tap was great. That was cool to break out. Excellent. Was a great moment. Great to see her emotions. She had a good first promo on Raw.
She did.
And yeah, she's comes over. The crowd's very behind her. She's very, very likable, a very magnetic personality, and happy to see how her run's going to kick off. Seems like we were wondering last week about like what's going to be her first direction and feud, and I mean we got the answer that we're not going to have like a contained one yet. We're going to do the champion versus champion thing at Crown Jewel Perth for the Crown Jewel Women's Championship. So maybe she can go ahead and win another belt. But yeah, I mean, good. I'm just excited to see where it goes. And it seems like, unfortunately, we won't get that first real proper feud until after Crown Jewel, but that's okay. Gives her a chance to kind of land on her feet and, like we said, not kind of be thrust into the deep end right away.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, and with Io, obviously, we got some real big stuff coming out of Raw. And yeah, you can. Why don't you go ahead and take it away there? Because I'm sure we got a lot to talk about there.
I mean, listen, Asuka and Kairi have been a really great act. We say that every week, and it was no different. It was no different here with Stephanie after she gives her first accepted speech on Raw. And the crowd's loving it. She's backstage. I believe she runs into Nikki Bella and someone else.
Yeah, Nikki and Rhea.
Okay, Nikki and Rhea, yeah. And then here comes Asuka. And, you don't deserve to be the champion. It should have been Io. And Nikki slips out of the picture, which, I don't know, that seemed a little like you got punked. But she slips out of the picture. And Asuka is just kind of going to town. And Stephanie, she doesn't obviously challenge anyone because her championship challenge is going to come from the winner of, who is it? Rhea versus
it's Nia, Tiffany, and Jade.
Okay. Oh yes. Okay.
This is the triple threat for this week on SmackDown.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be for the WWE Women's Championship.
Yes, and then the winner of that will face Stephanie at Crown Jewel.
So it's very possible that Tiffany Stratton could lose that championship before Crown Jewel.
Yes.
Okay, we'll touch on that in a second because I have thoughts on. But yeah, so she has an interaction and then she walks away. But Rhea is kind of like, yo, I am sick of your mouth. I'm sick of everything that you've been saying. And of course, Asuka is certainly not afraid of Rhea Ripley. And they end up having a match. The match is good. And Rhea wins that match, correct?
Yes.
She wins
with
that
a roll
match
up.
With the roll up. And then Asuka starts to beat up Rhea and
hits her with the mist.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. I was multitasking toward the end of that match. She sure does. She hits her with the mist, and this brings out Io, and Io tries to call this off, and then Asuka attacks Io, and Asuka attacks Io, and then she makes Kairi get in on it too.
Yes, yeah, made Kairi beat down both of them. There was it plays on the finish. So Asuka or Io or okay. Let me start over because I'm saying all the names and none of them are right. Kairi, the ref's checking on Rhea on one side of the ring. Kairi checks on Asuka on the other, flips her the old Miss Capsule, runs around the other side of the ring to the ropes, tries to attack Rhea. Rhea foils her attack. Asuka hits Kairi with the hip attack. Rhea rolls up Asuka 1, 2, 3. Then Asuka hits Rhea with the mist and tells Kairi, "Hey, now you attack her." And of course, Kairi is very conflicted, not wanting to do this, but she's not going to go against Asuka. And that's when Io comes out. Asuka's like, "I'm not going to take it." I don't know if it was then or earlier in the night when Io talked to her, but Asuka said, "Why am I going to listen to you? You just lost your match." And they're playing on this angle that earlier in the night that Kairi and Io both said, like, Asuka's the reason we're here. We've got to listen to her.
Yeah.
And I thought that was new, and I really enjoyed that. Like, oh, Asuka paved the way for us. Like, she was the one that came over for Japan and kind of busted the door open. So, like, we've got to be reverent and respectful of her. And I like that they played on that angle, and that gives Asuka something to gloat about, that she was the progenitor of all these great female Japanese superstars that we get to enjoy today.
Yeah.
And I like that. And of course, we still like we love the Kairi stuff and her being kind of subservient and subjugated under Asuka that she's got to listen to, because Asuka's the reason she's there. But yeah, this full on heel turn, and that we can put Io and Asuka against each other. I thought they would stretch it out a little longer, but I'm also okay with it happening now. And I think we're just going to keep getting good stuff.
Yeah, I thought the pacing of the turn was fine. I thought I could see how it could benefit from some time.
I didn't think she was going to attack Io so soon. Okay. I thought Rhea for sure, like Asuka was going to go full on crazy, but I thought that Io would hold off for another week or two. But it's not bad by any means.
Yeah, well, and obviously this sets up a tag team match for Crown Jewel. Perfect. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be great, because I think
with some tension, because Io was talking to Rhea before the match, and I mean, it probably got assuaged when she got the mist, but Rhea said, "I just want you to be careful around Asuka, Io." And Io even repeated Asuka's the reason we're here. Why wouldn't I trust her? Maybe it's I don't know if I should trust you, Rhea.
Yeah.
And then, but I mean, that seemingly got assuaged when she ate a back fist from Asuka. We'll see if they come back to that. But I liked that. I thought they would give that little bit another week or two to breathe, where Io's not sure who's the bad guy here, if it's Rhea or if it's Asuka, and that maybe she'd be so reverent of Asuka, the reason she's there, that she would hesitate a bit. But they just kind of fast track that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say, is I thought that they'd give that part another week or two.
So how many weeks do we have until Crown Jewel?
Probably like 2, I think. So, like, not a lot.
Yeah.
So you're right. They probably got to go ahead and set it up.
It seems like they would want to set it, particularly if they want to add some elements there, maybe something that is not simply a Io and Rio decide to tag together because Asuka has a partner, and give it some room to kind of add a little bit of story beat there after the attack to kind of set up Crown Jewel.
Yeah, so we do not have long. It's Saturday, October 11th.
Oh, yeah, so it's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks from this Saturday.
Yeah, so no, they need to move this along. And listen, honestly, this is not one of those situations where fast tracking it causes us to lose a lot, because they've been laying the groundwork for this for a while. So whether this waited a week or not, it didn't change a whole lot. But we've said this before, Skeens. Like, this is what happens when you tell stories well, is you give yourself room, right, to have to wiggle when you need to. And even if this seems like it was a little quick, right, maybe it wasn't. Maybe this is the way the story was always written. And it's going to come out fine, because we're going to get something next week. You know what I'm saying? We'll get something in the next 2 weeks that's going to give this story even more depth. And we may even lean into some of those things, right? Because in my mind, I'm like, why? So Kairi and Io obviously have loyalty to Asuka, and they have a level of honor and appreciation for her because she paved the way for them to get here. But Io should not be the person who is naively following Asuka. Like, they can know who she is and still have that reverence for her because of what she did, and a level of loyalty to her for what she did that would have Io questioning Rhea and her intention. But at the same time, I remember seeing that segment though and thinking to myself, I mean, do you not see it, Io? Like, I get why you are hesitant in a way to turn your back on Asuka, but don't pretend like you don't see it. And that was the one thing that just kind of got me about that segment. No big complaint, but you could have delivered that segment without the element of not trusting Rhea. That to me felt like it was a bit soap opera shoehorned in, but I also think that that's kind of part of the charm of this feud, this whole angle, because there has been this almost campy soap opera element to it, particularly with like Asuka and Kairi and Io, and then even with Io and Rhea, right? Like, they've had these moments where it's like y'all seem to be really close with each other through your combat over the years, to the point where it's like Rhea is emoting in a way that makes me feel like, are you really hurt by this? Like, are you really hurt by the fact that Io's not listening to you? But they're delivering it in a way that is believable and campy, and it just works. Like, every story doesn't have to be told with laser focused levels of seriousness, and I think it just works for this. And, so obviously we're setting up for Crown Jewel, Perth. All of these women that we mentioned will be involved because we're more than likely getting a tag match with Rhea and Io versus Asuka and Kairi, and Stephanie Vaquer will be in a match where she will be going champion against champion with whoever is the women's world champion after Friday. Which, on that, since we're standing right, do you think Stephanie retained, or do you think that the experiment that is
I assume you mean Tiffany, right?
Yes, excuse me. The experiment that is Tiffany Stratton is coming.
And I don't know. I think any outcome is possible. But it's also, I think that way because I'm going to be honest, that is not the portion of the program I have cared the most about. They have not done a good job making me invest in any of that. The person I care about the most is Nia Jax. I love Nia Jax. She's entertaining every time. But yeah, Tiffany hasn't really clicked. I mean, I could see them going away, but what do? I don't think they're going to go back to Nia yet. And I don't know if this is the time you put it on Jade, but maybe you do. And I don't know. You tell me what you think, because you seem to have an idea, and frankly, I just haven't cared enough to form ideas or thoughts about it.
Yeah, it's not, I'll say this. It's not necessarily that my forming of ideas is indicative of me caring. In fact, in this situation specifically, is probably because I don't care. But my mind just ruminates on ideas when I think of stuff, right? I don't know. I just feel like Tiffany Stratton as a champion has been somewhat of a failed experiment. And I have to believe that WWE is not trying to put on a lackluster show. I have to believe that they don't look at Smackdown as an afterthought, that whoever the predominant writing team is for Smackdown are trying to write a show that people want to watch, right? I have to believe that. If I believe that, then I have to believe that Tiffany Stratton was a purposeful decision and not one that we made just because we don't have anybody that we're super duper confident in to put in that position. So if I believe that, then I have to believe that they're also gathering that the fans like Tiffany, but she is just not that dynamic of a champion. Like, she's really not. And do I think Jade is more dynamic right now? I don't think so. But it's not because I don't think Jade has it in her. I just feel like Jade needs more reps. And she could get there. I think Nia is fine. I've never been the biggest fan of Nia Jax, but I've never not been a fan of her. It's kind of like she's fine. But I think if you've got just from my opinion, obviously, if you've got someone in Nia Jax who's fine, you've got somebody like Jade who I think she has the potential to be a very big star. She just needs more reps. And you've got Tiffany Stratton, who is your current champion. And this experiment is just not landing, folks. Like, this is, there's no better opportunity, in my opinion, than to make a change here. Particularly when Crown Jewel Perth will be the first match that whoever the new WWE Women's Champion is will be their first match with the belt around their waist, right? And it will be a non-title match. There's a title on the line, but it's not their title, right? You can afford to utilize them in such a high visibility match that does not require in-depth storytelling, right? Like, I think what we got from Seth and Cody on Raw was wonderful. It was excellent. And it was far more than what was necessary for this match. Like, I'm not a fan of phoning it in, but back in the day, believe it or not, kids, we used to have a PLE called Night of Champions. And at Night of Champions, it was champion versus champion. But we sold that premise away to give, the champion versus champion thing to the Saudis. And now it's turned into...
Hey, now, this is the Australians.
I'm saying it is. It's a carryover, right? But, like, where's Night of Champions now? We don't do it.
Well, they like the concept. They can just do it elsewhere.
Yeah, and listen, Night of Champions did not particularly require very in-depth stories because it's champion versus champion. And so the story kind of writes itself. And so you've got Stephanie here, who is currently very beloved, and she is a great wrestler in the ring. This champion versus champion match will serve to hide her fledgling English. She doesn't have to get on the mic to help tell a story. Anybody who wins that WWE Women's Championship, if they do try to impart some sort of story here, will have to tell the bulk of the story. If you were going off of that premise alone, you'd put the belt on Nia. But I don't particularly want to see Nia Jax as champion again. And so for me, you put the belt on Jade. Do I think Jade holds the title for a long time? No. But I have to believe that the people who showed up in the hostage video are coming back soon, right? Stephanie showed up in that video and then she came back. So I'm thinking Liv Morgan is probably coming back sometime soon, and hopefully Bianca is coming back soon too. That would be a great feud for Jade as new champion to go into, is a feud with Bianca. You know what I mean? And I think that would work well. So I would put the title on Jade and then have the Jade Cargill Stephanie Vaquer match at Crown Jewel and call it a day. I think that's the best match that you could, technically, the best match you could ask for would be Stephanie versus Tiffany. But I don't know. Maybe they continue with Tiffany. I just kind of think that Tiffany would be served a whole lot better if she got, honestly, Skeens, the Charlotte Flair treatment. Maybe you shouldn't need to do like a Players Tribune article or anything, but like she needs to be put in some stories where she can be allowed to flourish character-wise that don't involve the title, because it seems like her character growth had stagnated since she's become champion. When she was Nia's little lackey, we got a whole lot more development with Tiffany than we do now. And I think I would have to guess that's because, you don't have to when you're the champ. You can allow the stories themselves to be the markers on the markers on the plot point, on the flow chart that is your story as champion. They could do more, but they just haven't. And I don't know if that's WWE's doing or if that's because Stephanie is better chasing a title than she is holding one. I don't know. But
yeah, so summarily, like I said, that it hasn't been at the forefront of my mind, so I haven't thought a lot about it. One, they just haven't given Tiffany anything to do. Like it's just kind of been there. And I don't know if any who could have been champion in that spot outside of a few people that anyone would have cared about because she just hadn't done anything. Hasn't had the chance to do anything interesting. And maybe that's because she's not interesting. Maybe that's because they haven't come up with anything. I don't know whose fault that is. I just know she hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
And two, that whole scene has just never recovered from the sudden removal of Naomi.
Nope.
It's just been very stagnant since then. And I'm not saying that was a bad call to do what they did with her, but we talked about it then, like, where does this go? Hasn't gone anywhere since then.
True. Very
So
true.
maybe we'll see something, and we can talk about it more next week because something's going to happen.
Yeah.
You would think, or maybe
Yeah.
Tiffany retains and nothing happens. But
That's
we'll talk about it
possible, too.
either. We'll talk about it either way.
Yeah. I mean, listen, dude, honestly, you hit the nail on the head. Like I hadn't thought about that. Not because it's not true, but it escaped my mind. But no, you're right though. Like we said it before. They just have not recovered from the loss of Naomi in the WWE Women's Championship picture. And it honestly, it just goes to show how good Naomi is with her character, how good she is on the microphone. And listen, Naomi's gone. We've also had Bianca missing. Like they're just missing some key elements that they have been building that women's division around, because that women's division was very much an entertaining thing to watch when Bianca and Jade and Naomi were on the same program. You know what I mean? Like it was very interesting to watch. And then we lose Bianca to injury and Naomi becomes the women's world champion and leaves SmackDown. And so you're then just left with Jade, and you got to interject her into, other pictures. And it just so happens that you interject her into the WWE Women's Championship picture, and the champion is just not that strong. So yeah, but like you said though, we'll see very soon because that title match is going to be on Friday. So we'll know very soon what direction WWE is going with that. Quick question I want to ask you. Very random too. Have you heard anything about what they're doing with Mariah May in NXT? Like, what is her new name was
Blake Monroe.
Blake Monroe. Have they been using her?
She's been doing things, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a weekly NXT watcher, but
me either.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't been benched.
Okay.
At least as far as I know.
Okay, I was just curious. She was on my draft team, and
she beat Jordan Grace last month at the whatever their PLE was.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what she's done since then. But I know that was at last month she had a Jordan Grace feud and she ended up beating her.
They could honestly, I feel like WWE's women's division on SmackDown could use an infusion from NXT.
SmackDown could use something. A new piece to play around with.
Yes, I feel like they could really use a new piece to play around with. Like, you ain't got to bring up a ton of people. You don't want to gut the division down. But, they could bring up someone, because it seems like they do a good job in NXT of rotating people at those top spots. You know what I mean? And it's like, they're doing a lot with Lola Vice right now. And she's challenging, JC Jane for the NXT Women's Championship. And I'm like, that's awesome that Lola Vice is at the top of the card right now. So and they just got people. They just got people. You got to think, my only concern is that sometimes when people come up to the main roster, they get Alba Fire. And Alba Fire was at the top of the card when she left NXT. And she has not taken those suspenders off since she hit the main roster. And
she was tag team champion. She was women's tag champion. Not that, that's the be all end all, but they feel like they tried. I liked her and Isla Dawn together, but they just never seemingly invested enough.
When did that happen?
Oh, I'd have to look. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they were for a bit.
I thought they were when they came up. They were the NXT Women's Champions. Wait, NXT, did they have women's tag team champs?
Yeah.
I think that might have been them.
No, she won. No, she is a one-time WWE Women's Tag Team Champion.
Dude, I didn't even remember. That's crazy. That is nuts. I didn't even remember that happened.
They
But
beat Bianca and Jade.
oh, I do remember that.
And at Clash at the Castle. They did it in Scotland
Oh yeah,
last year.
okay.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Very, very not memorable run.
No, they were not doing a whole lot.
Like, who did they even drop the titles to?
I think Bianca and Jade won them back a couple months later.
So that was literally giving them something in front of their hometown crowd.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Hot potato with that thing. I got you. That's why it wasn't memorable, because it was one of those things. Is like you're doing it for the hometown crowd, and then they win them back next night on Raw. Okay. All right. Fair enough. I also wanted to ask you something about someone else, but I'll ask you off air because it ain't WWE. Not that we're restricted from talking about stuff that's not WWE. We talk about whatever we want, but I don't want to take up more time talking about something that's not WWE. But I'll ask you about it when we get off air.
Okay.
So next match: CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Skeena. I thought this match was very fun. I thought that there were some angles in this that WWE that they were really flirting with territory and areas that we have not seen them really dabble into. And they do it every so often, right? Beth Phoenix did it to a certain extent when it came to her and Edge's feud with Miz and Maurice. Right. And we definitely got more of this way back in the day with China. But man, I definitely we saw some moments in this match where men and women were certainly putting their hands on each other. And
which I was led to believe is a disqualification, but I guess not.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of part of the rules too. That, when the tag happens, you had to tag the other person, the corresponding gender or sex person in the ring, and the match would continue. I guess technically they never said that it was a disqualification. So, I mean, I guess the rule is loose, but that is supposed to be the rule. But listen, maybe Punk could have never pinned Becky, but it didn't stop him from putting her in a sharpshooter. So that was fun. And I definitely think that the right team went over here. I think you do give this fresh W to AJ Lee and CM Punk. And like I said last week, it's something that Rollins can always kind of hold over Punk, which is like, you never beat me, what I'm saying, your wife did. And that's something that you can kind of work with there. But what did you think of the match? Because there's a couple things here that, one, fall out on Raw that I found very intriguing. And then two, something that I saw online, not a lot of, but I saw it in like one place. And I'm of two minds about it. Not because I think I agree with the take at all, but I could kind of see where the take came from. But I want to start with you. What were your thoughts on this mixed tag match?
Fun was the right word. Yeah. It was, I mean, it was exactly the sports entertainment it needed to be. There were fun spots, there were great spots. Let's AJ kind of get back into the groove of things without it being a big singles match where she can't play off other pieces, but it was great. And we were talking on the live stream, and it was it was good. I'm glad they built that whole match essentially around getting AJ the hot tag and getting close and taking it away, and that was great. And the table spot was great, and the sharpshooter and Becky getting Punk in the sharpshooter and all that stuff, it was great. And excited to see where we go. You're right, Raw did get interesting. Interested to see when Punk and AJ pop back up.
Yeah.
And see where we go from there, because where do we go? I mean, obviously these four are still going to be involved with each other somehow, you would think. But I was I was a bit surprised we didn't see even like a pre-tape from Punk and AJ, unless I'm forgetting something. We did not see their
No, you're
faces
not
on
forgetting
Raw at
anything. I
all,
was
right?
thinking the
Okay.
same thing, that I
Yeah.
was a little
So
disappointed that we didn't get to see any
yeah,
of them.
yeah, but we did get that little bit of Becky and Seth, and I'll go ahead and I'll let you talk about that because it seems like you were leading into that
Yeah,
before
I
you
thought
ceded
that
to
was
me.
interesting, right? Like, obviously this happens after Punk and Cody, not Punk, but Rollins and Cody at the top of the show, right? And that exchange between the two of them, which that was a really great way to set up their match at Crown Jewel. Not that it needed it, because I said that earlier, right? Not that it needed it, because it's a champion versus champion match. But man, what a way to like lean into their history.
Hmm.
And, Cody is great in these moments, but listen, take your hat off to Seth freaking Rollins, because this dude, when he turns it on, he can turn it on and he can sell anything. And it just worked. When you got two people who can really sell an angle like that, dude, it just works. And so we fast forward to Seth in the back, and he's just kind of staring at that watch. And
Hmm.
Becky is kind of on like this devil on his shoulder tirade behind him. And like he's not really moving, he's just staring at the watch. And you start to notice.
Probably a fake watch.
Say what now?
It's probably a fake watch.
You think it's like it's not
He's
a
fake.
real watch, or that Cody didn't give it
No,
to
that's
him?
what Becky said.
Oh.
When she was ranting, she's like, he's fake. That's probably not even a real Rolex. That's fake. That's what she was saying.
But she was saying certain things that seemed to kind of echo certain sentiments that Seth has been saying about the vision, right? And his place in the vision and his place in professional wrestling. And you could take that one of two ways. You can take that in Becky and Seth are just on the same page, right? They both see themselves the same way in their respective divisions. So, of course, his wife would be echoing sentiments that are just like his own, right? Or you could look at it another way, that these are not Seth's sentiments at all, that these are all Becky's sentiments. Seth had a real pivot after WrestleMania 40. He had a real pivot after that. And it started building towards what would eventually culminate in his alignment with Paul Heyman and the formulation of the vision. One way you could look at this is maybe an interesting angle where Seth is somewhat being good angel, bad devil on either shoulder situation with Becky. That Becky is truly the man here, and that she has far more influence over Seth than we give her credit for. I don't know. That popped into my head when I saw them, and I was just like, why does Becky seem like she is far more in control of the situation than he is? Like, what if they spin this angle where Becky is the actual leader of the vision?
I think you're fantasy booking a lot here.
Listen, I have no problem.
I see it. I see the dots. I don't know if they connect in that way.
Maybe not.
But I think the poignant part of it is that there is this Cody hit, and that watch symbolizes that, just their connection and their history, and that, they had this series of matches, and that maybe we do see a more unnerved Seth because he realizes that what Cody said is true, that hasn't beat him when it's just been them.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea. I followed. I'm not sure that's where the train's going, but
Maybe
it's
not.
certainly interesting to think and talk about. But I will say I love Becky's commitment to the and it's not just me saying it catchphrase. It's not just me saying it. Other people say it too. Sports Illustrated says it. Bleacher Report says it. I love the commitment to that. But yeah, if nothing else, like that segment was a great juxtaposition to show you that Seth going into this match, and like you said, they didn't need this storytelling in this match. They could have just done champion versus champion, but that Seth's mental state is different than it has been since he became the leader of the Vision, that this one means more to him, is sowing doubt in him, something that I'm sure we'll explore in the coming weeks.
Oh yeah, for
Because
sure.
his wife's behind him doing the normal ranting, and you're right, he's just sitting there staring at the watch.
Yeah, yeah.
It seemed like they were showing that Cody had him rattled a little bit,
I
which
agree.
we haven't seen since WrestleMania.
I agree.
He's been totally in control of everything aside from the brief moment he accepted the match with CM Punk and the Punk match. Other than that, he's been the mastermind that's been throwing the crutches to the side and in control of everything, and now he may not be.
Yeah. No, dude, I totally agree. The other thing that I kind of saw a little bit online, which I can understand the perspective, though I disagree with the premise. There was some criticism that I saw about AJ Lee and AJ Lee's performance. There was a lot of praise, but there was some criticism. And some of the criticism that I saw had to do with the limited move set, and honestly there was a bit of like the diva style of wrestling versus what modern women's wrestling looks like. And part of me gets AJ was wrestling on the tail end of a different era where women did not wrestle the way that women wrestle. I think she was far and away ahead of where a lot of women were back then. So I get how if you were watching back then, AJ looked like much more of an actual wrestler than the women of her era. But now, wrestling in a match against women who wrestle, she seems like she's simply doing a lot of Thez presses, right? And a lot of punches. And listen, I will say this, tighten them punches up. Like, it just takes some reps.
I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. The one spot where she was like windmilling those punches, it looked like shit. Like, it just didn't look good. And we comment on that on the live stream. But like, that spot should have never happened. Like, don't let her do that.
Yeah.
Like, someone's got to tell her you can't do that. But like, I didn't see anything other than that, and seemed like she had some sort of trouble getting the Black Widow in on Becky
the first time.
And that could be a both times it didn't look like she got it in to where she normally does, and that could be anything. Like, people are just built different. Maybe someone can't bend in a certain way. Maybe Becky's arms are longer than AJ figured, or maybe they just didn't pull it off. That's a tough thing to do, like, in the middle of a match. Especially with all that pressure. So like, that didn't even bother me that much. The punch spot, yeah, that was weird. But like, to the people that are saying that, like, I don't know what they expected.
Agreed.
Like, they must have not actually ever watched or have completely forgotten like what AJ wrestled like. And AJ, I think people, again, like, expected the wrong thing, but also, like, I'm not saying AJ is bad in the ring, but her in between the ropes is not ever what sold me on the character. It was the stuff beyond the ropes and pushing the envelope on that, the crazy chick character. Like, that's when she blew up, not wrestling, Iron Woman matches.
Sure.
Like, I just don't know what people expected. And it wasn't bad. It was what it needed to be. And I don't know. It just gets lost on me when people criticize that, because I don't know what they expected. Because you're right. There's a discussion to be had about, like, did she stood out more because she was in a certain era where the rest of the talent crop was not up to par. Now that everyone's on a higher level that she's around, it looks different by comparison. But I didn't think it was bad, aside from the one punch spot. People are just never going to be satisfied with some things, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and listen, I don't disagree. And like I said, to an extent, I can see their perspective. I would have loved to.
I'll say this: if you came to this mixed tag match, and the selling point of it for you is, sorry, dogs were barking. We may need to cut that out. Hey, Be quiet. Be quiet.
I'm leaving all that in.
Hey, stop. There's no one there. Okay, I'll say this. If you came to this mixed tag match wanting to be sold on it and really expecting what you to be entertained by was how flawlessly AJ Lee was going to perform in the ring at this world-class level, I think you missed the boat and you set yourself up for failure, because that's not what this was about. Not ever what it was going to be about, never what AJ was about. I don't know. In a way, I get the perspective, but then another one, it's like, I don't think you've been paying attention to anything if that was your want or expectation.
Yeah, no, and see, and here's where I say things like, I can see the perspective. I am not one who is particularly keen on nostalgia acts. I'm not, and that's not me not having reverence for these talent. I love the talent. I think I don't like the nostalgia act because I love the talent. I don't want to see certain things. I don't want to see. Listen, I don't want to see what WrestleMania 43 is going to be, because it seems like it's shaping up to be a nostalgia fest. If you listen to any of the rumors, right? I don't want to see certain things when wrestlers get in the ring that change the perspective that I have of. And when you're someone in AJ Lee's position, right, who has not been really active in the ring. She did a few things here or there, and I think she did some work with the all women's promotion for a good number, but I don't think she was wrestling. That. She was doing more commentary and working the backstage aspect of things. But she has been around the business here and there. So I did not necessarily come into this thinking that she was going to come into this match and be Tiffany Stratton. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not her background. And I didn't think that she was going to come into this match being Lyra Valkyria. And I'm giving those two examples because I think there are two women who really do epitomize two different spectrums of women in professional wrestling right now, right? The one who came in as an athlete from a different sport and has adapted into a very adaptable wrestler who can do a lot of things, right? Or someone who is a bona fide professional wrestler, right? They are a technician and a true grappler. I didn't expect her to come in here and be that, right? But dude, would I have liked to have seen a suplex? Yes. Would I have liked to have seen a suplex? I absolutely would. Something that maybe lent to the idea that not only is she still capable of going in the ring, but that there's been some effort put in to adapt her to what women's wrestling looks like. Nikki Bella has done a pretty good job of that because Nikki came around in that era too. But the difference is Nikki stayed a lot longer, you know what I mean, than AJ did. So Nikki got to be around for much more of the transition of, women's wrestling. And she's popped back in here and there, and she's been able to kind of keep the pulse and keep the beat. So when she comes back now, it doesn't take Nikki long to kind of snap into shape. And obviously, if you were to put her in the ring with somebody like a Lyra Valkyria, you'll see the glaring difference between the two of them. But Nikki does well enough to where when she gets in the ring with somebody like Beck, who I think Becky has always been technically sound, but she's not the flashiest wrestler. Like, I think her versus Lyra, you can see a very glaring difference between the caliber of wrestlers that they are, right? But your ring and mat skill and technician and technical ability are not the only things that make you a great wrestler. That's why Becky is great. She didn't have to be technically the best, right? But she does a lot of other things really well too. So you can see those differences. I think AJ can show more of that. That was her first match, and it's her first match in over a decade. In my mind, I was thinking when I read some of those things that people were saying, can we understand all those things that I just said, put them into perspective and cut the woman some slack, right? Like, if she's going to be here for longer, then I would like to give the benefit of the doubt that her matches will not be simply full of Fez presses and windmill punches. And you know what I'm saying? And the highlight being the Black Widow, that we'll get some more mat training with her as she begins to do this a little more regularly. And then she'll get into the rhythm of doing things that are a little more akin to what women's wrestling looks like now, because they actually allow the women to wrestle now. So, we'll get that. I will say this, that table spot turned out to be a lot wilder than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think the table was going to break. And
it didn't look like it for a second. The new table is just very sturdy.
It is. It's like, it's temperamental too, because it's like, sometimes I think it's going to break and it doesn't. And then like in this match, I didn't think the table was going to break, and then it ended up breaking. Right. And listen, for what it's worth, none of those bumps that they took through that table were particularly gnarly. But I think the one that looked the gnarliest, right, was the one that AJ took through the table. Like, she caught the side of that table straight up, with the table standing straight up. She caught it right on her side and kind of flipped over it. And I was like, that's the part that you should replay every time you replay this match, because it's something about when people take nasty bumps, and they're fine, obviously. But when they take nasty bumps, that people are like, oh yeah, see, that's cool. They're cool. And it can work for her. So, I hope we get some more, like you said earlier, some more follow up with Punk.
I think we will. They're not just going to disappear.
No, but I was like you, thinking that, like, man, I was really hoping we were going to get something on Raw. You know what I'm saying? That kind of like,
yeah, definitely odd that we didn't, I thought, but yeah, maybe they just needed some time off. I get that too. So
maybe so. And listen, they got the latitude. It's Punk and AJ Lee, so they got the latitude. And you roll right into giving Seth and Cody room to kind of build their thing for, Crown Jewel Perth, which actually leads us right into, our last segment here, which is the undisputed championship match between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. Now, obviously, because we've been talking about Crown Jewel Perth and the great storytelling beat on Monday between Cody and Seth, I think we already know who won this match, and it wasn't Drew. But this was a pretty good match. This was a pretty good,
really good match, I thought. I saw, again, this is when I was looking, during my rest area gas station stops in the middle of the night after, and people being dissatisfied with this match. I'm like, I don't know what you expected. Like, this, I don't think, is the end of their interactions. They weren't going to pull out every stop in this match, and they didn't need to. Like, it was fine. It was what it needed to be. Drew still has his gripes on how he should have won. I mean, he got the old visual pinfall over him, because he hit that Claymore and he got about a 7 count when the ref was out of the ring. And, I don't know. I just don't know what people wanted. But yeah, I was very entertained by the match. I liked it. It was what it needed to be and what I expected it to be.
Yeah, no, I thought the match was really great too. Listen, I would be remiss if I did not say this stupid thing. I was distracted during that match. I did not realize how high Cody's pants were. I didn't realize he wore his pants so high on his body.
Let me Google this.
So you didn't notice?
I mean, it's old school wrestlers, like you see them. They used to do that.
They used to.
Like Hogan had some high pants days, and Billy Graham.
He sure did. And listen, I get it.
Cody Rhodes, WrestlePalooza.
I get it from a wrestling historian perspective, and totally makes sense. I see his tights. I see them holding up the belt with tights like right below the belly button. Yeah, like they're high up. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean higher than you would wear pants.
Yes, higher. That's where some older people will wear their pants at that height to cover their gut, and it's like tucking your belly in your pants.
Well, I think God. Well, you know what? Let's just get sidetracked. I don't think it's always the gut. I think when you get older, you lose all your junk out of your trunk, and if you don't pull it up over the belly, your pants won't stay up because you got no ass to hold them up. I think it's more that.
Really? I think it's thought that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more that, because when you're old and you start getting frail, you lose your muscle tone in your ass.
Oh,
and then
please. you don't have
tighten your belt
any
up butt.
To hold those things up. I think it makes.
We may have to put this. This may be a story poll.
Listen, I think we should, because I think what it does is I think it gives a more desirable silhouette. I think that
I think that's a side effect, but I've seen the look also on old people with no gut. I've seen very, very frail, gaunt humans with that high pants too. I don't think it's an exclusive gut reducer.
Listen, Cody could also just have a short torso. But then he never wore his trunks like this.
Yeah, I was going to say, has he always worn his tights like this?
No. When he was originally in WWE, when he was wearing trunks, he didn't wear his trunks like that. This is a choice. This is a choice he's making. And I feel like I've noticed it before.
So it seems like I'm looking at a WrestleMania 40 picture. It looks like the tights aren't quite as high. They still may be a little high.
But not quite as high, right?
No, this seemed abnormally high. Maybe these were a little too long.
Honestly, dude, if I can be real with you, he looked like he's carrying a little extra weight. I noticed it that night. And then on Monday, right, his suit looked a little snug, a little more snug than they normally look. And listen, no shame. I'm just saying, it looks like, I think that's why I noticed it more at WrestlePalooza than I normally do. Because I'm not trying to feign ignorance. This is not the first time I've noticed that Cody wears his trunks high. It's not the first time
I've legitimately never noticed this.
I've noticed it plenty of times. I've noticed it so many times, but I just thought it was a choice, right? Because I, like you, also understand, right, that like this is not new in wrestling. That wrestlers have wore their trunks high before. So it's not new, and it's nothing that I thought was strange. I just thought it was a choice. But I think I noticed it significantly at WrestlePalooza because Cody looked heavier, right? And then the trunks were higher than normal. And I was like, okay. Deliberate choice here. Very deliberate choice. And maybe I was watching closely thinking, maybe I'm just seeing, maybe it's just me. Or maybe I'm just seeing. But then when he came out on Monday and he's in his suit, right? His suit looked a little snug. And I was like, oh, I mean, listen, we're human. You know what I'm saying? I'm not judging. But, I was just like, okay, he looks like he's carrying a little weight. People vacillate in weight. Randy does it all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like Randy vacillates in weight all the time. So it's not a judgment call. Still love you, Code Man. I was just saying, it just, I could listen, you had the shorts hiked up.
I think he's wider because they probably wanted him to get less cut, more bulky for Guile, I would say.
Maybe.
Because we got to remember he's coming off that.
I thought about that.
So I think maybe they wanted him to be a little wider and less like, lean cut out like he normally does.
Yeah, maybe they wanted him to bulk up a bit for the role. And you know what I'm saying, that's very possible. I do agree he did look a little wider. So yeah, I mean, listen, that you could very well be right there. I certainly would not put that past the realm of possibility because it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, look, the match was good.
Now that we got that out. Now that we got the important stuff. Yeah. There we go.
Now that we got the important stuff out of the way. No, the match was good. I mean, it was just a match. It was just a good match. They wrestled great. They always wrestle well together. And then, Drew. Drew took himself out, right? He tried to do the Claymore thing to the table again and injured himself. Yep. And it's the story of Drew's life, right? Like Drew is always screwing Drew.
After he had won the match, like he had won it, he has a legit complaint.
Yeah. And then Drew screws Drew per usual. And yeah, that was that. Now didn't if I'm not mistaken, did Drew also take the turnbuckle off?
Yes, which is what led to, didn't the ref hit it and that's why he was out of the ring or something?
I can't remember. I just remember him taking it off and then him ending up running into it himself.
Yes, that was a false finish early in the match, right?
Okay, yeah. See, you know what? Drew is his own worst enemy. He's his own worst enemy. It's like you had the opportunity to win here. And like you said, you had a legitimate gripe there. You had him down for like a 7 count. And, you had the post incident early, and then you tried to do the kicking his head through the table again, and you injured your own leg. And then, Cody hit you with a Cody Cutters and Crossroads later, and Cody's still the champ. Now, here's another angle too, right? I was talking earlier about how Lesnar could potentially come out there and cost Seth the match somehow, right? Wouldn't it make more sense if somebody were to get involved in Crown Jewel Perth for it to be Drew? Particularly if this is not over, right? And Drew comes out there and costs Cody the match. Cody loses. Seth gets a ring, right? But then it also adds ammunition to this whole thing between Cody and Seth, because Cody can always say, yeah, you got one over on me, but you didn't do it by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't do it by yourself. If Drew hadn't interfered, can you say that you would have still won that match? And they're doing a lot with their story on a personal, psychological level. Like, what they gave us on Monday was, I loved it. I really, really enjoyed that. You know what I mean? That exchange between the two of them. And it just really lent to this idea that Seth has an issue with validation and feeling validated in the company that he feels like he has been here for, that he has bled for, that he has always fought to put first, and that he is a top guy, but he's never been the top guy. And he seems to be someone who needs that validation. And he's going to Cody because of their history, both as opponents and as allies. And he's seeking that validation from Cody. And Cody gives him the most cookie cutter good guy response, which is, you're great. And, on any given day, you could be the best wrestler on the planet, but you seem to cut yourself off at the knees actively because you surround yourself with goons like the Vision. And it seemed to affect Seth in a way that outlasted the promo, i.e. the backstage segment with Seth and Becky, where he's just staring at this watch. And it seems to affect him greatly whether or not Cody, who is the quote unquote quarterback, sees Seth as the real front man of WWE. And I thought that it just played really well. So I think the idea maybe that you could easily get a clean finish at Crown Jewel. I guess I just think that, like, if the story between Drew and Cody is indeed not over, I think it would serve the story better for Drew to get involved. You know what I'm saying? Maybe cost Cody the match, and then it lends to a further feud between the two of them, which you can then blow off. And then at some point you can come back to Cody and Seth and tell that story, at least until you get ready to tell Seth and Roman. You know what I'm saying? You've got stories lined up behind stories to tell.
Oh, Roman is on the poster for Crown Jewel Perth. So
okay,
we've got to see.
So
and
where do we leave Roman?
Who knows? I think we'll have to find that out in the coming weeks.
No, I mean, where do we leave Roman?
Where did we?
He got put out by the Vision.
Got beat down by Bronson Reed after their match in Paris.
Okay. Right. Okay. So
yeah, we'll see when and where he comes back. Yes, he is very front and center on the Crown Jewel Perth poster.
Okay. So listen, maybe he'll bring some of that Akuma energy to Crown Jewel,
we also have Drew on the poster, so you would assume he will be there in some capacity as well with a match. I hope this Friday we get crazed Warpath Drew, who is just incensed.
That would be nice.
And out for blood. But we'll see. There's a lot of different ways they can go. These kind of it definitely muddies things that we're turning Crown Jewel Perth into Night of Champions, seemingly.
Yeah.
Because that does a little bit, but it also means we don't, empty the tank on these other feuds right away. We can make a pit stop and kind of keep things going on the side and not burn everything out so quick. It can be good and bad.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It does kind of stink that we're kind of sidelining Night of Champions. But if Crown Jewel is going to bounce around to, different countries, and this each year is going to take the place of a Night of Champions and give us the champion versus champion match, then yeah, let it be what it's always been, which is a nice, interesting stopgap, in between stories so that we don't necessarily have to kind of, blow all of our good ideas on this one PLE before we get to the next one. So now I'm with you there. I'm with you there for sure. So Skeener, we've come to the end of this week's show. What is your takeaway this week from our week in wrestling? Whether it's something in the ring or something that has happened outside the ring. Give me your quick thoughts.
I don't know if it's a broad takeaway, but I want everyone, especially my man Jay, to know that I completely stand with him on his gripe with the referee from Monday.
Okay.
Because that, I get it as a ref. Do you know what I'm talking about, the finish?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you need to go back and watch it.
Okay.
So Jay hits him with the spot. Jay hits LA Knight with, I forget if he hit him with a splash or a spear or something. LA Knight's, apparently one of his shoulders wasn't completely down, but it didn't look bad and it was away from the camera.
I do remember this.
So Jay pins him and the ref says shoulder, and it takes like 3 or 4 seconds. Probably not that, but when you're in a pin, it seems like eternity.
Yeah.
To get him over, and then he counts the 3. And Jay is hot at the ref after. And I'm with him. He didn't need to do that. It made it kind of look crappy, and I'm with Jay. And I just remember that and thinking, yeah, that referee, in the words of Ted DiBiase, kind of tried to fuck on him.
Yeah. No, he got the 3 off that pin too, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it was.
And Jay was hot.
It was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, Jay was hot. If you go back and watch that.
Yeah, when you said it, I remembered. Like when you said it, I remembered. I thought it was something different.
Oh, it stood out because you could tell because Jay was mad during the pin because you could tell he's like count. And the rest shoulder, and you could see him mouthing something like, I don't give a shit, just count.
Yeah.
And then he was jawing with him afterwards too, and Jay was hot the whole time.
Yeah, listen, it seems like a week of wrestlers kind of getting heated in the ring. Which, I will actually supplant what it was I was going to say, and I will save it for off the air because it was what I was going to tell you earlier. But
okay.
I will actually supplant it with, I actually stand with the wrestler as well. I stand with Randy Orton. Now, I don't know if I believe this might have been last week. I might have been Friday before WrestlePalooza. Did he wrestle Drew?
Yes.
Okay. It was on Smackdown.
Yes, because that's when Cody returned. Okay,
right. So in that match, it appeared that Randy might have tweaked his knee a bit, coming off of the second.
Yes, now that you say this, yep.
And it seemed like it might have been a bit legitimate. He wasn't injured, but he kind of tweaked his knee a little bit. And I don't know if this was kind of a miscommunication between him and Drew, but oftentimes I feel like that's kind of the ref's call to make, to kind of let people know when something is a miss. But Randy ends up then getting chop blocked from behind by Drew, right? Strike 2 here. Then Drew body slams this guy, and he body slams him into the ropes.
Yeah, the legs on the ropes.
Yeah. So you immediately see a shift, right? Where Randy kind of rolls out of the ring in a non-work fashion. He rolls out of the ring. He walks a little ways up the ramp, and he kind of leans on the railing. And you could tell it's not leaning like he's selling. He's leaning like he's pissed. And we know this because later on in this match, right, they're in the ring, and I can't remember if this happens before or after, but at one point, Randy goes down, and instead of selling, he just goes down, and then he just purposely turns and gives Drew his leg. I mean, it's just totally not selling, right? And then he gets caught on the microphone. He's pissed. And he's talking about how in all of his years in wrestling, he has never been body slammed into the damn rope. And listen, do I think Drew did that on purpose? No. Drew seems like a class professional. And I can see how in a business like this, it could be something that could easily be missed or overlooked, where you're in the heat of the moment, you're doing what you feel comes natural, and certain cues are missed. right? I personally put the onus on the referee. I think the referee should have checked with Randy, right? Particularly if the refs know what the story beats are. That's something that we learned from watching Unreal, right? Is that the refs are not only aware of the story beats, but the refs are mic'd and they also have the earpiece and they're getting fed from the back what should be happening at different points in the match in order to keep for time, right? So the refs should be in the know and also understand when something is happening in the ring that's not part of the match, right? So my gripe this week is also with the referee that you've got to do a better job, man. So maybe this is a word to refs in general, right? We appreciate what you do. You're just as much a part of this production and this story as everyone else. But because you have that responsibility, you need to do your job, man. Like, pay attention. Pay attention. You can't miss a particular story beat that matters. Jay getting this pinfall cleanly without having anything in question, right? By counting the pinfall, particularly when you know that nothing else is coming after this. This is the pinfall. Count it. Or understanding when someone may be legitimately in a hurt state, right? Checking with them to see what the deal is, and then not letting another wrestler further potentially, you know what I'm saying, like exasperate an injury. Like, you don't want that to happen. So just pay attention, refs. You are a valuable part of this, and just make sure your eyes are open, your mind is clear, and that you're on script with everyone else. Skeener, please let our friends know where they can catch us with the next episode of the Lariat Lounge, where they can contact us, where they can keep in touch with us, and where they can become part of the show.
We're coming at you once a week, every week in this podcast format. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast. And if you've got any referees that are making your life hell, drop us a line at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com and let us know what referees are really trying to mess with you.
Yeah, call them out, man. We don't stand for that. Okay, we keep it honest with everybody, and we'll let them know. We'll let them know, like we did today, man. Look, we love you. Just stay on your job, man. And Skeener, you're putting up a poll, right?
I will. Do we want to put up that poll about high pants?
Yes, I am
we'll
really.
Do it.
Now. What are we asking? Like, are you down with high pants or?
I was gonna ask, what do you believe the primary motivator behind the phenomenon of high pants in the older population is?
Oh, fair. Okay.
The hiding of the gut or the lack of the ass to keep the pants
The hiding
up?
of the gut or the lack of the butt.
Yep, there you go.
Those are your
Make
options,
it rhyme,
folks.
Yep.
The hiding of the gut or the lack of the butt. Look, you know where I'm voting. I think it's hiding the gut.
I think you're going to be surprised.
Well, listen, we shall see.
I think me and the rest of the folks out there have clued you into something today.
Really? Okay. Listen, I think you're about to learn how much people want to hide their gut when they can't seem to do it anymore. They can't seem to do it the old-fashioned way. But
all right,
we'll see what they got to say. And thank you all for coming out to listen to what we have to say. We come to do this every week because we enjoy talking with each other, but we love the fact that you guys like to come out and hang out with us and hear what we have to say too. So, as always, we appreciate you. From your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens, this has been another edition of the Lariat Lounge. Please, watch yourself.